Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Brendan Hufford, who is the founder at Growth Sprints, which is an agency that helps SaaS companies acquire customers. Thanks for joining us, Brendan.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is going to be great.
So Brendan, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass, but try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay?
You got it.
All right, so the first one, at what age do you want to retire?
Tomorrow.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
30 seconds.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Dropping everything off of my lab table in 10th grade chemistry class.
Favorite color?
Blue.
What time of day are you most inspired?
First thing in the morning before people wake up.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
4 or 5.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Talking to customers.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Kendallville, Indiana.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Oh, I don't know either of them that well, but I don't think Jack Dorsey's a robot, so Jack Dorsey.
The biggest mistake of your career.
Joining a company that I knew had a toxic culture.
How do you relax?
Reading.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
How big is a cup?
Well, doesn't matter. It's only a rapid fire, so you have to just say it.
This cup that I'm holding up is the size of my face. So if that's the size, then 1. But I'm pretty sure there's about 5 cups in here. 1 pot of coffee is the answer.
Okay, a habit of yours that you hate.
Biting my nails.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Empathy.
And the last one is your favorite Netflix show.
Mad Men.
Okay. Well, that's the end of the rapid fire round. And you scored 10 on 10 because you did kind of manage to answer all of them, even though you almost didn't answer the Zuckerberg versus Dorsey one. But that's
no passes, but I can't guarantee we keep it to 1 sentence.
Yes. Cool. Okay, so let's go into the long form questions, which you can answer with as much detail as you like. And the first one is, would you agree with the statement that new technologies bring businesses opportunities, but the constants are the ones responsible for creating delightful customer experiences, reviewing the analytics, and fueling the next marketing experiments?
So clarifying question here. Are you essentially asking me, like, is the new technology is great for bringing in new business and things like that, but there are still like mainstays that we shouldn't throw away as we like chase the new thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just by my reframing and re-asking of the question, that's absolutely something that I believe in. I think there are things that new technologies have made incredible, help marketers and businesses make incredible progress, right? Businesses survived the onset of the pandemic in 2020, especially restaurants, because they were able to use technologies like Toast or something similar to immediately spin up a delivery service or immediately spin up a pickup or to go capability. So things like that are amazing. However, I think sometimes it's very easy to get so excited about those that you forget the other pieces of what used to work. There's a lot of talk about attribution in marketing and in my world. And a lot of people are really hot on self-reported attribution again. It came around full circle. Like originally when you got a customer, you'd be like, how'd you hear about us? And that was like a very important touch point thing to ask them. Then eventually we're like, we don't need to ask that. The software tells us. And now we're kind of, the pendulum swinging all the way back the other way, where people are like, yeah, the software is wrong a lot. So we should probably be doing both, right? They're both flawed, but this old thing also is really important.
And so, like attribution, what is something else that has come back with a force?
I feel like I'm talking to customers a lot
Mhm.
lately, and I don't think that that should be a surprising thing, but having worked inside of a really big SaaS company and also consulted with a lot of them, customers are super siloed. And coming back to that has been super important. And also, just there's a really classic book called Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, and Eugene Schwartz talks about um, these like levels of awareness: problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Also talks about being completely unaware of any sort of problem existing. Those are like coming back in and super important to the work that we do as well. So things like that. There's another really cool study that I think is like 25 years old, so not super old, but just not a lot of people know about the science of curiosity. And for the work that I do in marketing, understanding how to create and harness curiosity is really like the whole name of the game. And there's like 5 curiosity levers that you can pull. That's coming back around again. I think a lot of times we fetishize this old stuff. Everybody gets all up on scientific advertising and Eugene Schwartz and David Ogilvy and all these things. And there's a lot of gold in there. Don't get me wrong. My most highlighted book on my my Kindle right here. My most highlighted book
Mhm.
is Ogilvy on advertising. I share quotes from it constantly. However, I think that having that mix and that balance of like, I'm going to study the things that have not changed. It's weird. Advertising, copywriting, a lot of that still holds true. Buyer psychology, but also mixing in the new, I think, is super important.
And so, could you share a quote from Ogilvy that you really like?
Oh yes. I literally all I have to do. So I use. Have you ever heard of Readwise?
Not quite.
Readwise is this beautiful app that I would pay way more than I pay for it, and all it does is every day pulls your Kindle highlights and just resurfaces
Oh.
them,
Oh, wow.
and it changed my
It's only for
life.
Kindle, though? Okay.
Yeah, I no, you can add other things to it. I can save like Twitter stuff, like Twitter
Mm.
things to it automatically. I can pull notes from other places, and it'll just resurface those things. But really, any
What's it
idea that
called
you
again?
Readwise
Readwise. Okay.
.io, I think is the website address.
Mhm.
I think I heard about it from a couple people, and then I think Tim Ferriss talked about it, and then it kind of like
Mhm.
blew up as a company. Um, so here's one of the. This is literally the. Instead of giving you like the best one, I'll give you the most recent one.
Mhm.
This quote that said, he says, "First, study the product you're going to advertise. The more you know about it, the more likely you are to come up with a big idea for selling it. When I got the Rolls Royce account, I spent 3 weeks reading about the car and came across a statement that at 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise comes from the electric clock. This became the headline and was followed by 607 words of factual copy. It's one of the most iconic headlines ever in advertising, and he found it by reading technical manuals for 3 weeks. Most people do
Mm.
not put in that amount of work to study the product that they're taking to market. And I think there's a lot of like that for me. That was always been very much my process of like immersing myself in product, customers, data, collateral, information, everything. And that to see like that's how one of the best of all time has done it. That gave me a really good kind of North Star to keep
Mhm.
following that.
Yeah, that was definitely a beautiful quote. But switching now to B2B marketing, do you agree with the statement that in an information rich world, because I guess Ogilvy is also talking about how much information you have, in an information rich world, B2B conversions on a first touch point are getting rarer?
I think it depends on what you're selling in B2B. So I worked at an email marketing company, which is B2B, right? Our customers are business owners. But it's $9 a month with a free trial, which is very different than other B2B where it's all right, cool, we're selling medical devices or we're selling into a steel manufacturing plant or whatever. Those are very different processes. So, like, are those going to see a conversion on the first touch point? No. Lower price and depending on what the product is, like you still see that. I think the better. I don't mean to answer your question with a question, but I think a better question for people to be asking themselves is, which of those am I? Because it's not about B2B as this or buying cycles have changed or anything like that. I think what we're seeing more and more is just a misalignment. People that are long sales cycle and not first touch point types of companies are still trying to do first touch point types of marketing. And then other companies that can be first touch point are pulling people into drawn out demos, and you got to talk to an SDR, and you have to like do this whole long process that's built for enterprise B2B sales. And it's like your thing starts at $4 a month. Like they don't they don't need to get on with a demo. Just take the credit card right there. Show them the product on the website. And I think that's like a fundamental misalignment that's happening. And that misalignment is what we see. It's not binary. It's not this or that. It's just companies don't know who they are and they don't align marketing to who their actual company is and or who their customer is.
So you're saying that companies have not studied their product in a lot of cases, in this case.
Or their customers, like they'll have like a
Hmm.
customer team and it's like, or there's only four, this company's 1,000 people. And if you ask them how many of them have talked to a customer in the last 60 days, there's like 6 people that have talked to it, not including like support or something, but like on the product or marketing side, nobody's talking to customers. Um,
Hmm.
So I think that's the biggest thing. And it's not, that just becomes like part of the culture. Is like, we know what we're doing. We know the message. We come up with the brand. We come up with the messaging. We do all these things. And it's like, I get it if you are doing true like category creation, right? Like you're creating a car. What is that? I think it's like a Ford quote or something. Like if people asked what, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have all asked me for a faster horse, right? Like if you're truly creating something totally new that doesn't exist, like, yeah, you got to lead a little bit, right? Apple creating the iPod, like they had to lead a little bit, but we're not all creating the iPod, nor would I recommend most companies do that, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is spending, like we're seeing some of those pieces and having a better structure of like, how do we, like what type of like growth loops and things do we have built in so that customers are like we have a steady stream of customer information coming in. We have a steady stream of product information coming into marketing, coming into sales, things like that.
And why do you think this not listening, or how do you think this not listening to customers culture developed in SaaS?
I don't think it's in all of SaaS. I think that we very much kind of similar to the new technologies question you asked. Like we got the pendulum just swung too far. Like we didn't have any, like we used to not have anything. So you had to talk to customers all the time. You'd do anything to try to talk to them. You would go to the events that they go to. You would try to like get them on the phone. There's all these different like cool ways of doing things that gave us those great like feedback loops. But now that we have technology, now that we have technology that tells us what customers are doing in the app, now that we have technology that tells us where they can, like the over reliance on that, I think it swung too far. And I think the answer is like many things, like probably a little closer to the middle.
And so, speaking of new technology, what are your opinions on businesses' growing reliance on artificial intelligence?
Honestly, as somebody who's in the content world a lot, like I like it. I think it's interesting. The way it shapes my world is I see a lot of like writing tools with AI. I see a lot of I've been playing around with Mid Journey a lot lately and just being like, I wonder what if all like what if all the creative was just AI? Create like that would be really neat, right? Things like that. You can create a prompt and then create this almost like brand accurate type of thing. Like you can do a lot of cool stuff. So I like that. I'm all for that. I'm a eternal optimist. So I think on a long enough timeline, the if AI takes away from some of our creative work, that allows us to pursue a new level of creativity that maybe we don't even know exists right now. Like if takes away jobs from designers or writers, great. Like let's all level up and like create. You know what I mean? Just like when we had enough food to feed a lot more
Mhm.
people in the world, like we were able to focus on new things. Like not everybody was just working on sustenance
It's more
constantly.
about strategy on how creativity can be done. So I think when I'm on Mid Journey, I'm like trying to think what prompt I can give, and that's
Yeah.
a bigger level of creativity than actually designing it yourself. And that's interesting. Yeah.
100%. And it's like, all right, cool. And how can I get this AI to get it 90% of the way there? I'm never going to get it to make the little person at the bottom right, but I can add that later. If I can get them to make
Mhm.
like this structure, yeah, I like stuff like that. And then I think on the like other sides of business, there's a lot of like AI pieces. You see this a lot in like sales tech and different things. Um, I don't know. I want to be an optimist about everything regarding machine learning and artificial intelligence. I had the pleasure of working with a true AI company as a consultant and seeing what they're doing and how they're thinking about things and how they build out models and everything. The training of the AI is still a human thing, right? Like we still have to train this AI, similar to you, like thinking through what are the prompts, all of this, like that is the creative endeavor. I think there's a lot of cool stuff there. So maybe I'm overly optimistic and too ready to welcome my future robot overlords, but I'm excited about it.
It just feels like to me on Midjourney, like it's, I don't know whether you've seen the movie How to Train Your Dragon. It feels like it's this magical force. You just need to know how to like play with it.
Oh,
And that is a
100%.
creative process as well. So
Well, I saw.
besides
Did you?
Midjourney, which is, yeah, go ahead.
I was just. Do you know who Peter Levels is? He's
Yes,
like
I
a
do. Yeah.
prolific.
20 startups in, 20, in 1 year. Yeah, he made.
He's wild, but he just created a thing where um it creates a new like interior design like every day.
Mm.
This
Oh,
website, it
wow.
was something like this these rooms do not exist.com. I saved the bookmark. But he's just like it took 500 lines of code, took a couple days to make, and now the AI art just like creates a new and it looks kind of like a mock-up, but it's real-ish, and you're like, "Oh, that's cool. I'd like to go there." Like,
Mm.
that's neat, but it's just AI creating it over and over and over, and it's like, "All right, cool." Like that the work he did was the creative work, and now we have this really cool project that can do different things.
So besides Midjourney, what other AI tools are you using for content in general?
I'm hesitant to call things AI versus machine learning because
Mm.
I'm not smart enough to know the
Mhm.
difference. But I use Phrase for content things. I remember I knew the head of one of the marketers there for a while, and he was like, "Yeah, they keep wanting to push like their AI as like the main marketing message," and he's like, and I was like, "Well, is it AI?" And he's like, "Yeah, it actually is." And he's like, "That's why they want to push it." And he was like, "But we can't push it in marketing because everybody says they have AI, right? Like I feel like every tool is
Mm.
AI powered now, and it's not anywhere near AI. It's
Mm.
just like a machine learning algorithm." But so I think Phrase, based on what I've heard from internally, like they have, semi true AI that like that's a cool tool.
What does it
Other than that,
do?
it's really those two. Hmm?
What does phrase do?
Phrase is cool. Their machine learning is really neat. It's really good at pulling like, hey, here's the gaps in your content based on what other people are
Mhm.
publishing. Even if you're not a subject matter expert, it can pull all of those things, and then we can pass that along to a true subject matter expert and be like, hey, you wrote this article about this, but you didn't write about these 12 things. We should probably include those topics in this article. And they would go, oh yeah, you're right. Like maybe they were just like too close to a topic, so they use the same word over and over again. It's like, look, you actually meant different things, so we should talk about those. The other thing it does that's really cool is it just rewrites content, right? Like I can train it and be like, all right, cool, this is what we want to talk about, and give me something on these topics, and it'll just start writing. And you're like, sometimes it's word salad, it's not perfect, but sometimes you're like, oh, that's very good, and now I
Mhm.
have a 2,000 word blog post that I can edit and refine and add a creative intro and like do the fun part, but all the like how to type of work is done.
Mhm. Okay. So, going back to SaaS B2B business models, given that the customer acquisition process for SaaS businesses is much longer, do you believe that offering free subscription business models of some kind can be a good way to attract new customers?
Yeah, I think a lot of times this get like freemium or free trial and things like that gets couched in like product led growth. Product led growth is way more than that. I have some friends that are really amazing. Andrew Kaplan and other people are really amazing at PLG. So I wouldn't say that what this is, but I'm not so much. I don't know if it's a free subscription, like you would want it to be freemium. So there's a free tier of this. But if you can't offer a free tier, showing the product on your website is amazing. And then giving people an interactive demo of the product is even better. so that they can actually click around in the product on your website, even if it's kind of just like a walkthrough demo where they can like edit things and change stuff. And it's I love that sort of thing. So there's a company called Trainual, TrainUal, that has a really cool interactive demo. I remember Postscript did this in the past, where it was like, they do text message marketing for e-commerce shops, and it was like the biggest concern they found customers had was, do are these texts going to look like garbage and hurt our brand? And they're like, well, put your number in and we'll show you how we use Postscript for ourselves by texting you. And then all of a sudden it goes from like a website experience to like a mobile experience, and people are literally demoing the product as Postscripts them. It's kind of cool. So I love stuff like that. So I don't know if it's a free tier is necessary for everybody, but the ability to see it without having to sign up for a demo and an SDR, and people are like, well, we don't know if and I understand like there's salesmanship and there's value that they want to create and all these other things, but I think the days of things being gated is really problematic, because I'll tell you, if I want to see what a product looks like, I'm going to go on YouTube. Like there's videos and visuals of it out there. Do you want me watching a video of your product from 2017, or do you want me looking at the interactive demo on the product that was updated last week? Probably the latter. And I think companies forget that buyers can find out anything they want now.
So, what are some of the things that startups continue to get wrong? And on the other hand, what are startups doing better now than ever before?
So one of the things startups in general continue to get wrong is looking at marketing, because this is the space that I'm in, looking at marketing as if it is a volume game. We need one blog post per week. We need one social media post per day, per week, per month, per quarter, per year. It's volume. And I don't see enough companies doing what I think they would want to do, which is just putting a flag in the ground for quality, of just saying, screw reach. Like, we want resonance. Uh, I think that's where a lot of it starts. Things like it's famous now, and it might be survivorship bias, but I always love the article from, I think it's Slack's CEO, called "We Don't Sell Saddles Around Here." Things like that, where it's like, all right, we're going to put a flag in the ground for quality, and we're going to let this like set our path going forward. So I think just the mistake is simply not giving themselves enough time, and or creating a culture like I've been a part of previously, where there just wasn't enough time to make great work. We had to just keep pushing out more and more volume. And because the top line metrics kept growing, that's easy to ignore. But when those go down, when revenue slows and you might have to raise a down round, or when, or just you can't IPO because everything's kind of fallen apart or whatever, things happen to businesses, especially as economic climate changes. The thing that will always have a bigger impact is hiring the right people and then giving them enough time to do great work.
And how do you think this will change with relation to clients themselves?
What do you mean?
So, how do you think, what would be the ideal strategy for identifying and achieving customer expectations, values, and desired outcomes?
In terms of like giving the team enough time to do that, I think,
Hmm.
I think we could all use a little bit more time. Again, we kind of overcorrected into this world of like KPIs and OKRs and all of this sort of stuff. Um, I think it's taking output off of like the main metric. I think output can be fine for like, all right, we're going to benchmark against this, of like, in this quarter we would like to launch X number of whatevers. I think that's fine to set those goals internally and then hold yourselves to that. But being able to create something that resonates, like half of that is, it's kind of like copywriting as a skill, right? Copywriting is not writing, it's just researching. 95% of copywriting is research, not writing. And to the Ogilvy example, right, it was 3 weeks of reading, and then it came out the headline that probably took him a day to figure out. That sort of thing is how I think a lot of marketing could and should work, right? A lot more like I said, talking to customers, figuring out how people use the product, that sort of thing. Like that is marketing. People are like, cool, Brandon, that's called product marketing. Yeah, but then the rest of marketing doesn't know what's going on there, right? And the larger a company gets, the more success they have, their success is their enemy, right? They get further away from customers. They get further away from their own team. They get like things get separate. And I think we'll see better customer outcomes and give customers the true transformation that they want. Not just like, does this work? Does it do the thing? But what is the transformation they're seeking in their life, and how can our product help them get that? Well, I think we get a lot closer to that.
So, speaking of copywriting, then what other factors, in your opinion, make business writing essential for advancement outside, establishing a credible online presence?
Like what other skill set or
Yes, what other skill set would be necessary?
so I think copywriting couches a lot of things. When I think about the work I do
Mm.
in SEO and content, a lot of that gets like the research piece and understanding the phases of like write how you speak, and then you write how you speak, and then you write how your customers speak, and then you figure out like how to write how they think, so they have those moments where you're able to articulate words to feelings that they've had but have never put words to themselves. People will throw their wallets at you if you can give them words to something that they've felt for years but never had the words for, um, and then be like, and that's what our product does. um, I think the other thing is, I'll say this really quickly, outside of skill set, from like a hierarchical standpoint, right? Like having a CEO that gets marketing, having a CMO or marketing leader that gets content, and then having a content leader that has really good taste. Like those things cannot be skipped. If you only have two of those, it will be difficult. If you only have one of those, it will be impossible. Having those in place is really, really important and valuable. Outside of that, I'm not sure what other skill sets. For me, so much of when I look at all the great marketing work, so much of it is the same skill set as copywriting. It's journalism, it's angles, it's creativity, it's deep research and understanding and empathy. And doesn't matter what channel you're working on, it doesn't matter what type of media you produce, it doesn't matter anything. Literally, my brain is spinning. I'm like going through the checklist of all the different marketing activities businesses do. It's the same for all of them. Here's the thing: just because I'm oversimplifying it and making it really simple doesn't mean that it's easy. This is a really hard thing to do. It's just not that complicated.
All right. So, the last question for you is of a personal kind. It is basically, what would you be doing in your life right now if not this?
Um, I would, if I wasn't doing this and I still wanted to have something that I was passionate about be involved with the business that I was running, it would probably be around fitness. Fitness and health is something
Mhm.
that has always been a challenge for me. And I work in marketing because I like solving challenges. And I think being involved in fitness and health would also be really rewarding, but also something that I would love to do.
All right, fitness and health then. Well, that was the last question. Thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. That was Brendan Hufford, who is the founder at Growth Sprints, which is an agency that helps SaaS companies acquire customers. Thanks for joining us, Brendan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month.